What's up, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Ted Kulkevich, and this is the studio. Today, I want to show you how to create something like this. I found this on Dribble. It's from Paul Faivret. So shout out to him for the original design, but I'll be showing you how to create something similar in Figma. So let's dive into it. So the first thing you want to do is just duplicate this as a reference. And I'm just going to draw a dark artboard because you always want to design on the final color that you're going to be creating the artwork for. So if I'm designing something on dark mode, I want to design on dark mode. Otherwise, if I design it on a light background like this, you won't really see how the colors actually look. And so if you look at this, it seems like there's a lot going on, but it's fairly simple. We basically have the background document here, and then this little flap, and then the icon in the center. And it has a little bit of this shading, which really does a lot of the legwork and making it look like it has depth and 3D. So we'll just keep that in mind as we design. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by drawing the basic shapes here of the document. And I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm just going to eyeball it. Nothing super precise here. And now we want to draw the little flipped over piece. So the way I like to do this is draw a triangle. Something like this. And then you can copy this. And then paste it. So now I have this triangle on top. And now I'm just going to delete this original piece. So now we have that. Let's flip it around. And I'm going to make this a little bit darker just so I can see what I'm doing here. All right, so we got that established. His looks a little bit larger, so we'll just do that. Alrighty, now we're going to round the corners. See what 5 pixels, that's a little, need a bit more. Let's do 12 pixels. 12 pixels looks good. We're also going to apply 12 pixels here for consistency. And then let's do like 6, no, that's way too much. Let's do, actually, I'm not going to round these corners. I'm going to round the document behind. So let's do like 6 here. And now what we want to do is copy this document in the back of copy and paste it, and then we're going to intersect the selection. Alrighty, so we got the document set up, and we'll add some kind of icon there later, but let's start working on the lighting there. So it looks like there's an outline, and actually he has these like corners rounding, which helps. So I'll show you how to set those up. Let's just undo that. So we have the sharp corners. And what we're going to do now is drag this down and this to the side. We'll add another vector point here, right next to it. And give it a sharp edge. Now we're going to select this vector point and add a little bit of rounding to it, like so. We're just going to offset it just a slight bit, because if you combine it, it'll basically combine those 2 points into one and remove that rounding that we did. So I'm going to put it really close for now. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. So we put it in the corner there. Just make sure that there's no bending happening here. Alrighty, now let's move this up here at the top, move it just a bit over, and let's add rounding here. And usually you want to measure these out so that they're consistent. So this one is about this tall, and this one is about this wide. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this, and we're going to round these edges that we left here. And then round the ones behind it as well. Now we have that curved effect happening. So let's add a stroke now to our shape here. We'll just make it white in the meantime. And it looks like the stroke here continues all the way across. So let me actually duplicate both of these. So copy paste. And we want to add a stroke to this. Let's make it center. And a stroke to this center. And now let's remove the filled and just leave the stroke here. So you can see I have just the stroke now, and they're separate objects. And now it's really just playing with lighting. So you can see how the light goes from this direction. The light hits from the top right, and that's kind of gives it this kind of indented effect, and then the light hits on this spot as well. And then it casts a drop shadow below it. So we're gonna apply those same principles. Now make sure these are flattened, which I use Command E. And let's add that gradient. So most of this kind of work just relies on blurs and gradients to achieve the specified effect. All right, I'll just use my own colors, but so I'm not copying those exactly, but let's see what this looks like. So I'll make this a little bit lighter, darker, and then we'll fix this outline later after we apply the colors. And now this one starts dark and gets lighter, so we'll apply a gradient to this as well. So let's make this one a little bit darker, something like this. Now what we want to do is add a little drop shadow to this here on the left. So let's do that. Effects, drop shadow, and here you can click Option, or that's the shortcut for Mac, Option, and we can drag it around and we can move it over and increase the blur, something like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this stroke. So we're going to make it thinner. Let's do like 0.75. And let's play around with the color here. So usually you want to have the stroke just slightly lighter than the object. There you go, something like this. So it looks like there's a, I don't know if you can see with the screen, but there, it looks like there's a circle here that's blurred, which gives it that smooth kind of gradient. So we're going to add that over here. So I'm just going to copy paste this, and now we're going to do Control Command M on Mac to mask. And we're going to make this white. Then let's remove some of the opacity there, just so slightly. And I also want to make this background a little bit darker so that it accentuates that glow that we just added. And all this just comes down to tweaking things, so feel free to explore. Don't be super tied down to exactly what I'm doing here. Now I'm just going to mess around with the opacity or the brightness of this line. It's 50% opacity, which is why I could see through it. So let me just adjust this with the new colors. So just slightly brighter here. And actually, I think I want to return back to one pixel stroke. So let's make this 50% opacity. So now we have our smooth document. Let me just put it on some kind of container so we can add that nice drop shadow behind it. So let's round those to 32 pixels. We're going to put it in the center here. Then we're going to select the background color and make it a little bit lighter. And then let's add a drop shadow. Let's drop shadow to our document. I'm going to move it down a bit and blur it out. Let's do 15% drop shadow. make it a little bit stronger. And again, with the drop shadows, I also just constantly finesse the little settings here for blur and how far you want it to flow off the page. I think like 26 is pretty good. Let me see also if we make the stroke 2 pixels, if that'll look better. See, like, I think that's a little bit too large. Let's try 1.5. 1.5 is okay. Maybe we make it a little bit less visible there. I'm just lowering the opacity of these. Sweet. Now I'm gonna put a little search document icon, a little search icon here on this document. So let's just draw a stroke. Make sure it's in the center and go into edit mode, select this anchor point and draw a line down and rotate it 45-degree angle, and then select this cap and add a round end. Now let's make this darker so that you can see it on the document, and we're gonna outline it, which is Option Command O on Mac. Now I'm gonna have this little light effect here, which is just basically a drop shadow and a inner shadow. So we're gonna start with the inner shadow effect, inner shadow, and we're gonna make it light. Let's make it 1 pixel on the y-axis and 1 pixel here. And then let's add another effect, which is gonna be our drop shadow. We're gonna do 2 and 1 blur. Let's increase the blur a little bit. So it looks like in this one, there's actually inner shadows darker, which is why this is looking a little bit off. So let's make it darker than the object. Yeah, something like that. Let's remove that drop shadow. So now it looks like it's kind of indented or like in the document. And I'm going to increase the blur to like 3. Let's see what that looks like. Looks pretty good, but the inner shadow is a little too dark. So I'm going to select the color of the object again and just slightly make it darker. Now let's increase this to 5. Boom, then we have that. You can also play with the opacity of this object itself. So I'm going to put it to like, let's do 70%. And we have that there. So mine's a bit darker. You can make it a little bit lighter, the document. Make it pop off the page a little more. And just make sure you're selecting the actual rectangle, not the mask, because I do that all the time. So let's just make it a little bit lighter. Little light hat also, if you make something and it's a little too dark, what I do is I'll make a copy of it and then I'll place it on top and just play with the blending effect. So like if we want to make it lighter, for example, you can do screen 50%, and now we have something lighter than our original. So that's just one way to do it, but pretty happy with the way that looks. Just add a little stroke around this box here, and that's basically how you create this document look. Also, one way to make things look really nice is by adding a little bit of noise. And there are a few plugins that do this, that allow you to do this. And there's also, you can download like noise images and add them as long as they're PNGs. So that's also an option to make things look really nice. Just gonna make this stroke a little bit brighter. And it looks like there's multiple shadows here, one bigger shadow and then like one closer. So I'm just gonna add another effect right here, drop shadow. And using the wrong layer. So let's add that. And then add a little bit of blur. So if you want to have more kind of natural flowing shadows, drop shadows, you can add multiple ones. One that's like a wider one and then one that's closer. But I'd say that's pretty close to the original. I mean, it's slightly off color-wise, but my goal wasn't to make it exactly the same. If you enjoyed that video and you learned something, please drop a like, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.